Hi, this is Ryan. So you've started working as a relief superintendent, and I thought that I'd do a series of video training orientation videos to help you succeed in your endeavor. These buildings are two very large buildings, and there are hundreds, if not thousands, of things to learn. These videos won't be able to teach you everything. However, they should help you to learn the basics of your duties while acting in the relief role. Keep in mind that there will be many things I do not cover, and especially if you have a problem, I'm available 24/7 by phone while I'm off, so don't hesitate to give me a call if you have any questions. So the first video I'm going to do is a video on the pool chemical room and the equipment. I think this is going to be one of the most important videos to learn because it's one of the most complicated parts of the job, and something that is very important to ensure that it's done well and safely. So we're in the pool chemical room now, and this is the spa filter. It's the smaller of the two. And beside the spa filter, there's the spa recirculation pump. Next to that is a strainer that filters out any large particles before they get into the sand filter, like lint or debris. This strainer should be checked every couple of weeks and cleaned out, otherwise the debris can affect the flow of water that goes through the pump and sand filter, causing the spa to become milky and dirty. Before you remove the screw off top of this, you have to ensure the circulation pump is off and the valves that provide water flow to the strainer are turned off. Then you can take the basket out and remove any debris stuck in it. Beside that, on the left, is the jet pump, the larger pump. Going to the top of the spa filter, you'll see that it's on filtration, and most of the time that's what it'll be on. This is for this right here is for backwashing. When you go to backwash, you turn that on. So there's a couple of things I wanted to mention about the jet pump. One of the things I'll be doing in the next couple of days is cleaning up a little bit of the calcium buildup on here. Wire brushing it down and getting as much cleaned off as I can. And to the left of that, on the wall, there's a large breaker that actually turns that jet pump off too as well. And that should be off if you're ever doing any work on the spa, like draining it or cleaning it or anything like that, as well as the main filter recirculation pump, and I'll show you where that is as well. And that's the controller for the spa. As you can see, it's 7.2, which is supposed to be 7.2 and 7.8, and then the ORPs. Over here you have the vacuum alert mechanisms, which shut off the pump. There's one up here, and there's one down there. These vacuum alerts are safety mechanisms which stop the suction if someone was blocking one of the drains. These need to be tested monthly. There might be some point where you have to, the pool inspector asks you to test the pump, and you do that by first turning number 1, and then all the way when the spa's on, and then going and turning number 2 all the way, and then you'll hear a pop, and then once the pool inspector says it's okay, then you can just release it and turn the two valves back into the normal position. And before you turn the two valves 1 and 2 back into the normal position, after you do the vacuum release test, you should turn the pump off, and it makes it a lot easier. And then you can reset the vacuum pump like I showed you with that little red lever. Keep in mind that it's very important that you never turn any valve, or even especially on the pool filter, before you turn the recirculating pump off. Otherwise, you could break a pipe and have a flood. So whenever you're moving any valve of any kind on either the spa or the pool, you should always make sure the recirc pump is off, and before you turn the recirc pump back on, you have to make sure that the valve is opened the way it was before. Otherwise it'll create a pressure and you'll have major problems and have leaks. So moving on, the two blue devices you see there are the sensors for the chemical controller, which is the pH, which would be between 7.2 and 7.8, and the ORP, which basically operates the amount of bromine that goes into the spa. And the higher that number is, for the most part, the more bromine would be set into the spa. Following that, you have the pump for the acid, which is when the pH gets too high, it pumps acid in and it lowers the pH. Next is the reservoir for the muriatic acid, which is hooked up to the pump. So when you do your chemical checks, if you ever notice that the pH is too high, it's probably not pumping acid into the spa. So you might have one of two problems. One might be that the reservoir is empty, or there's a blockage in the line, or the pump could be turned off or not working. So you're going to have to troubleshoot the problem. The pump should be pumping when the pH is high. So if the reservoir is empty, you're going to have to put muriatic acid in the tank at the top. So you would use 1 gallon of, or 3/4 of a gallon of muriatic acid, and with the hose fill it up to the almost up to the top within a couple of inches. You have to be very careful that you use glasses, safety glasses, when you do this, because it will splash out on you. Put the water in slowly. To the right of that is the heat exchanger for the spa, which adds the hot water to the spa, and that should be there's a thermostat that operates the temperature of the spa, which is usually around 102 to 104 degrees. One thing I didn't mention yet was the brominator, which is just to the right of the spa filter, and in there are bromine pucks, which the controller operates, allowing the bromine to go into the spa. And if you're ever low on bromine and you can't seem to get the bromine up, then you might be low on pucks, and you'll have to add a couple of handfuls of pucks to the brominator. That valve will allow you to control the amount of bromine that goes into the spa, and sometimes you might have to adjust that a little bit. If you're getting too much bromine in, you got to close it off a little bit, so that because there's always a little bit of a backup from the brominator, and if it sits too long, especially if nobody's in it, then you're going to get a high level of bromine, so you have to cut back on that. And just never leave that brominator valve completely closed overnight, or else you won't have any bromine in the spa in the morning. Here's a better shot of the brominator, and on the left of the brominator you'll see that green piece of equipment there, which is a solenoid that allows the bromine to pump into the spa. And that's the adjustment for cutting back on or allowing more bromine to flow in if you get run into a problem. There's still a lot more that I have to go over, but we'll do that in separate videos. They're a little bit more complex. So now we're going to be moving on to the pool and its components, and basically some of its operations. So next is the pool sand filter, which is much larger than the spa filter. On top of that, you have the valve which operates your backwash, your filter, etc. And then you have your chlorine generators, which activate the chlorine in the salt electronically to add chlorine to the pool. The newly chlorinated water is activated through these two components. You've got the two sensors, your pH and your ORP sensors, and one is the pH is 7.4 and the ORP is around 785 on that sensor. It's important to note that even though the pH looks okay at 7.4 and the ORP is at 785, which is generally the right area, that when you do your pool chemical checks, your pH might be higher or lower than what the controller reads, and in that case you're going to have to do a calibration by using this button, and I'll show you how to do that later. Just because the ORP says 785, sometimes you're going to have to add you're going to have to increase the amount of chlorine or decrease the amount of chlorine that goes into the pool as well, because that'll fluctuate, and that's one of the reasons why you have to do a chemical check about every 4 hours or so, because even though that the operator does give you a general idea, it's not an exact science, and you still have to make sure that your pH and your chlorine isn't too high or too low. You can adjust the amount of chlorine that goes in and out of the pool by those arrows. And there's your pump for your acid. There is no brominator for the pool because it's chlorine. This is your heating, backup heating for your pool. That valve there should not be touched. The ones that says hands off should stay in that position. This is your shutoff at the top for adding water to the pool. And there's your filtration pump. Again, it's got a little bit of calcium buildup on it, which I'll clean off. The pool also has a strainer which filters the larger particles before they get to the sand filter in the pump, which has to be checked. You can look inside the top to see if there's too much debris in it. And these are your for vacuuming. You would turn the one in the center all the way to the right for vacuuming, and the one beside that on the right halfway when you want to do a vacuum. You don't have to do anything else with that. And this is your on and off for your recirculation pump, turning it on and off. And here's your reservoir for your muriatic acid. Again, 1 gallon to every 5 gallons of water for that. There's a number of different functions you can do with that, and remember, again, you always have to turn the pump off before you switch any of those, and pull down on that before you switch anything on the top of that. And the other thing too is you have to make sure you never have the turn the pump back on with that blue valve closed when you're doing a backwash, because that'll cause damage to the filter. So whenever you do any kind of changing on the pool or the spa filter, filtration filter, you have to make sure that it is back into the filter position. And if it was on backwash, then it would just be shooting down the pipe, and it would cause too much pressure and cause damage to the system. So over on the right hand side here, you can find the gauges for the amount of fresh water that goes into the pool and spa when you add it. Each time you backwash or take out water from them, you'll have to add fresh water. These gauges should be documented on the pool chemical check sheet at least once a day. The gauges are indicated to which ones they are. At the back, you'll see the unit that dehumidifies the air on the pool deck and heats the water as it recirculates to the pool. You'll see the water coming from the pipe as it dehumidifies the air here. For the most part, you should see water coming out during humid days and when the deck becomes humid. If it is not, then there may be a problem with the unit and you'll have to call Honeywell to come to have a look at it. There's also a main switch that turns the unit completely on or off for maintenance. Sorry about that, but you probably heard my little budgie Simon in the background singing away as I'm doing the audio at home. He's my coach. Other than that, that's pretty well it for this video. I know there's a lot more when it comes to backwashing, vacuuming, and things like that, but I'll be getting to them in another video. So I'm going to end this one right here for now.